They say retirement is the reward at the end of a long journey. Mine came with 30 reserved seats, crystal glasses, a custom cake, and no one to share it with. Not my wife, not my kids, not even a polite excuse. Just silence. I sat in a room meant for celebration, staring at my phone like it owed me an explanation. I had spent 35 years building something I thought was noble. Early mornings, late flights, missed birthdays, forgotten anniversaries. I told myself it was for them, for a better future, for the house they loved, the schools they thrived in, the vacations we never took because I was too busy earning them. Every sacrifice was a calculated trade, every absence justified, until now. They weren't sick, they weren't traveling, they were at my boss's retirement party. The man I trained, the man I mentored, the man I thought respected me. And there they were, my family, laughing, clapping, hugging him goodbye. Something broke that night. Not loudly, not violently, just a quiet snap, like a thread that had been stretched for too long finally giving out. I realized I hadn't built a legacy. I'd built a wall, and on the other side of it lived the people I once called home. But this isn't the end. Not yet. There's still a story to tell. One where a man decides to tear down the very thing he spent his life building, one brick at a time, with bare hands. No applause, no speeches, just silence, and the hope that maybe, just maybe, he's not too late. I grew up in a one-bedroom house where silence meant someone was either angry or exhausted. My father drank himself to sleep most nights. My mother cleaned motel rooms until her knuckles bled. I used to sit outside on the cracked porch and tell myself, one day, I'll get us out of this. I'll build something so big, no one in this family will ever need again. By the time I turned 22, I was already working 80-hour weeks and finishing my finance degree at night. Ellen was my study partner in our accounting class. Bright eyes, soft voice, a laugh that cut through stress like sunlight. We married the summer after graduation. We didn't have money for a honeymoon, but we had dreams. Ellen used to say, all I want is a little backyard, a coffee pot that doesn't break, and kids who know they're loved. It sounded simple. It sounded perfect. At 27, I landed my first major promotion. We bought a modest home with peeling paint and potential. Our first child, Jacob, was born soon after, followed by Emily 2 years later. I used to rock them both to sleep while whispering stock tips to make Ellen laugh. At that point, I was still home most nights by 7. Then the offers started rolling in. Relocation, bigger salaries, equity, titles. And with every new office view, I told myself, this is for them. Each conference I flew to, each weekend I worked, each recital I missed, I justified it. I wasn't abandoning them. I was investing in them. Future security, college funds, a summer home they hadn't asked for. Ellen never complained. Not at first. She took care of everything. School pickups, doctor visits, homework. She smiled when I came home late. Said things like, you work too hard, but always with a kiss on the cheek. The kids would run to the door when they were little. Then they walked. Then they stopped. One night, I came home to find Emily's drawing on the fridge. It was our family, Mom, Jacob, Emily, and a stick figure outside a building labeled Work. I laughed, took a picture, showed it at work the next day. Everyone thought it was cute. I didn't notice Ellen had stopped putting drawings on the fridge after that. Years passed like this. Promotions stacked. Bank accounts grew. Our house doubled in size, then tripled. Ellen redecorated, smiling less with every new renovation. Jacob grew into a quiet teenager. I gave him advice about leadership and business. He wanted to be a teacher. I told him that was noble but temporary, and he should think bigger. He didn't respond. He didn't bring it up again. Emily used to leave notes on my desk, stickers, hearts. "Good luck today, Daddy." At some point, they stopped. I don't know when. Maybe after I missed her first school play, or the second. I always promised I'd make the next one. Sometimes I believed it. I was 48 when the company gave me the Father of the Year award during our annual corporate retreat. I stood on stage, trophy in hand, a slideshow playing behind me with photos from staff family picnics I hadn't attended. My assistant had submitted the application, said I deserved it for being an inspiration. I remember looking out into the audience and seeing only strangers. My family had been invited. They had RSVP'd. But something came up. Jacob had a track meet. Ellen had a migraine. Emily, I don't remember what excuse she had. Maybe none. That night I drank alone at the hotel bar. A young intern congratulated me and asked, "What's your secret to balancing work and family?" I laughed. "You don't balance. You build one so big, they don't have to carry anything." He nodded, like that made sense. At the time, it did. But I should have noticed that night how no one called to say congratulations. No one texted, no messages from home. Just a plaque, a trophy, and a hotel key card I kept forgetting in my pocket. I should have known then that I wasn't being celebrated. I was being replaced. There wasn't a single moment where they sat me down and said, "We don't need you anymore." It happened quietly, like a house settling at night. A drawer no longer closed. A picture frame tilted, never fixed. Little shifts. But over time, everything tilted. Ellen started going out more. Brunches, yoga, weekend workshops. I never asked with whom. I assumed it was harmless, maybe even healthy. She used to tell me everything. Now she'd leave notes instead of speaking. "Don't wait up. Leftovers in the fridge." Jacob stopped asking for help with school. He used to sit next to me at the kitchen table while I worked on spreadsheets. Now he worked in silence, earbuds in, eyes distant. He spent more time with Coach Reyes than anyone in our family. I found out later he called him Dad once by accident. Neither of them corrected it. Emily joined the school newspaper and began quoting articles about absentee parenting. I didn't realize the irony at first. One evening, I caught a glimpse of her laptop screen, an open document titled "Invisible Fathers." I asked what she was writing. She closed it and said, "Just homework." Ellen was nominated for a local Women Who Inspire award. I found out through Facebook. The photo showed her smiling beside other women, holding a framed certificate. The caption read, "For her anonymous essay on resilience and reclaiming identity." I asked her about it at dinner that night. She was stirring soup, still in her coat. "You didn't tell me you won something." She didn't look up. It wasn't a win. It was a confession. I didn't ask more. I didn't want to know if the essay was about me. Deep down, I already did. So I did what I always did. I threw money at the void. I surprised Jacob with a new car. Shiny, black, everything he'd ever wanted. He stared at it for a while, then said, "Thanks," and walked back into the house. No smile, no keys taken. I booked a week-long family vacation, private villa, oceanfront, everything included. I showed Ellen the reservation. She looked at me like I was speaking another language. "I can't just drop everything, Thomas. You don't work. I do now. I have things, a schedule. I'm not just available anymore." I turned to the kids. "Would you want to go?" Emily shrugged. Jacob said, "I've got training camp." They didn't argue. They didn't yell. That was the worst part, how peaceful rejection can be. I tried to fix things the way I fixed problems at work. Deliverables, deadlines, measurable outcomes. I forgot that families aren't departments. They don't report to you. The final straw came with the retirement party invitation. I printed them myself, embossed, thick cardstock. I hand-delivered Ellen's to her nightstand. I slipped the kids under their doors. I even wrote personal notes. Ellen didn't say anything for days. Then, the morning before the party, she handed me my suit from the dry cleaner and said, "You should still go. We'll meet you there." I smiled like that meant something, like it wasn't a dismissal. I arrived early. The room was perfect. Warm lighting, a jazz trio in the corner, framed photos from my career along the walls. I watched the door, checking my phone every 5 minutes. An hour passed, then another. I texted Ellen, "Are you on the way?" Seen. No reply. I scrolled through social media. That's when I saw it. A friend had posted a picture from another party, my boss's farewell event. There they were. Ellen, Jacob, Emily, all three of them standing beside him, smiling. My boss with his arm around Jacob. Ellen holding a glass of wine, Emily laughing. The caption read, "Celebrating a true family man. You'll be missed, sir." I stared at the screen until the image blurred. The jazz trio played something upbeat. A waiter asked if I needed anything. I said no and poured myself another glass of wine. No one from work asked about my family. No one dared. They probably assumed I preferred to keep them out of it. Maybe they thought I had a second family, or a secret. The truth was less dramatic, just sad. They were never coming. Not to that party. Not to anything I hadn't earned with my presence. The restaurant smelled of rosemary and butter and expectation. 30 chairs, 30 name cards with gold ink. My assistant had organized everything perfectly. Floral centerpieces, soft jazz, a cake with "Congratulations, Thomas" in elegant cursive. I arrived early, as always, adjusted my tie, and waited. They were supposed to come. I imagined it clearly. Ellen in her navy dress, Jacob shaking hands with my colleagues, Emily rolling her eyes but smiling when someone complimented her. A toast, laughter, maybe even a speech from Ellen that gently teased me for my workaholic tendencies. I had the script in my head, but as guests trickled in, co-workers, a few retirees, an old college friend, I kept checking the door, kept glancing at my watch. 30 minutes passed, then an hour. People asked polite questions. "Is your family running late? Traffic, maybe?" I nodded, made excuses, laughed them off. Dinner was served. I asked the staff to hold the family's plates a bit longer, just in case. Then, when dessert came and their chairs remained empty, I stopped pretending. I stood to give a speech. My voice caught once, but I cleared it. Thanked the team, said it was an honor, quoted a few lines about legacy and leadership. The applause was warm, kind, but it didn't reach me. As the evening wound down and the guests began to leave, a young waiter approached me with hesitant eyes. He held out his phone. "Sir, I thought you should see this. I didn't mean to snoop, but I recognized them." He showed me a post from another event, another room across town. Ellen, Jacob, Emily, all dressed up, laughing, clinking glasses, standing beside Mr. Miller, my boss, my protege, my supposed friend. The caption read, "The real man who was always there." My chest tightened, not in rage, in something heavier, a kind of surrender. I nodded to the waiter. "Thank you." He looked at me like he wanted to apologize for showing it. I waved him off and sat back down. The cake was untouched. I asked for a box, told them to wrap up 3 slices. For a moment, I just stared at the table. The untouched silverware. The printed menu with our family name engraved at the top. I imagined walking into that other party, tapping Mr. Miller on the shoulder, asking him if my family belonged to him now. But I didn't. I just gathered my coat and the box of cake and drove home. The house was dark when I arrived. Not unusually dark, just ordinary. I opened the door, stepped inside, and found Ellen in the kitchen, placing a teacup in the microwave. She didn't look surprised to see me. "How was the party?" she asked without turning around. "Empty." She turned then, slowly. There was no anger on her face, no guilt, just fatigue. I set the box of cake on the counter. "I saw the photos. I figured. You were with him?" "Yes." "With our kids?" "Yes." A silence settled between us, thick and final. "I don't understand," I said. "Why him? Why tonight?" She reached into a drawer and pulled out an envelope, slid it across the counter. I didn't open it right away. "I signed those 6 months ago," she said. "I was waiting for your retirement. Thought it'd be kinder than doing it during your peak." I opened the envelope. Divorce papers, neatly signed, no scribbled notes, no mess. "I didn't want to ruin your celebration," she added. "You already did." She flinched at that, but didn't argue. Footsteps came from the stairs. Jacob appeared first, then Emily, both fully dressed. They hadn't gone to bed. They'd been waiting. Jacob leaned against the railing. "Mom gave you more time than you deserved." Emily folded her arms. "You didn't ruin our lives, Dad. You just weren't in them." "I was working," I said. "For you." Jacob's voice rose. "We never asked you to." I turned to Emily. "You used to leave me notes." She blinked hard. "And you never answered them." I looked back at Ellen. "Well, why didn't you say something sooner?" "I did," she whispered. "For 20 years. I begged you to come home." "I was home." "No, you were in the house, but never with us." The weight of their words didn't crash into me all at once. It seeped, like cold water down the back of my neck, slow, unforgiving. "I thought I was doing the right thing." "That's the part that hurts the most," Ellen said. "You still believe that." Emily stepped forward, softer now. "We don't hate you, Dad. We just don't know you." I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. The cake box sat on the counter untouched. I wanted to offer them a slice, a peace offering, a gesture. But it felt stupid. They didn't need cake. They needed time I never gave them. The apartment was temporary. Bare walls, thin curtains, a mattress on the floor, the kind of place meant for someone passing through. That suited me. I wasn't building anything anymore, just watching pieces fall. I stayed inside for days. The world outside could spin without me. I barely ate. I drank, nothing too strong, just enough to blur the edges. I lined up draft texts on my phone, messages for Ellen, for the kids, apologies, confessions, half memoirs of all the things I should have said before it was too late. I didn't send them. Somehow, writing them made it worse. Seeing the words only highlighted how empty they sounded. I avoided mirrors. I avoided my reflection in windows. I didn't want to see the man who had built an empire and lost his name in his own home. The silence wasn't peaceful. It was judgmental. Then, 4 days in, an email arrived. Subject, regret. From Richard Miller. I hesitated before opening it. The man had always been composed, efficient, admired. I trained him, mentored him, protected his rise like it was my own. He had taken my place at the company, and apparently, at my family table. The message was short. Thomas, I need to say something you probably won't believe, but I hope you read it anyway. I invited Ellen and the kids to my party because I knew they wouldn't come to yours. I didn't mean to hurt you. I just thought someone should be there to celebrate them. You gave everything to that job. We all saw it. We just didn't see you. I'm sorry. Richard. I read it twice, then a third time. There was no smugness, no cruelty, just honesty, a confession from a man who had done what I couldn't. Been present. For the first time, I didn't blame him, or Ellen, or the kids, or the job, or fate. I blamed me. I hadn't just chosen work over family. I'd chosen absence over love, distance over discomfort, control over connection. I had built walls and painted them gold. I stared at the screen until it dimmed. Then I cried. Not the silent kind. The kind that shakes your ribs and makes your throat raw. The kind I hadn't allowed myself since my mother's funeral. After that, I stopped drinking. I deleted the unsent messages. I opened my bank account and looked at the numbers. Decades of work. Years of bonus checks. Stocks. Investments. It was all there. Everything I had ever chased. I sold the house. Didn't tell anyone. Just signed the papers, transferred the title, and arranged for a portion of the proceeds to be used to establish a scholarship fund. Named after Ellen, Jacob, and Emily. Not in honor of, just their names. Let the future decide what it meant. The fund would support students in family counseling, psychology, education, fields I had ignored, fields they cared about. I wrote a short letter to the foundation board. No grand speech, just a few lines. This is not a redemption, it's a redirection. Use it to help someone show up where I didn't. I moved into a smaller apartment closer to the community college. I started volunteering there. Office work, admin support, sometimes just organizing books. No one recognized me. That was perfect. Weeks passed. Then one morning, I arrived early and found Emily sitting in the waiting area. She held a brochure for the scholarship. I found out, she said, not looking up. I nodded. Okay. Is this your way of buying us back? No, she scoffed. Because it feels like guilt money. It is, I said. But not for you. For me. She looked at me then. Eyes sharp, not angry, just confused. Why didn't you tell us? Because I didn't want you to think it was about earning something. I've spent too long trying to trade actions for forgiveness. This wasn't a trade. Her jaw clenched. So you just disappear and donate money and think that fixes it? No, I said softly. I don't think anything fixes it. She stood, arms crossed. Mom thinks you're trying to rewrite history. I'm not, I said. I'm just trying not to repeat it. For a moment, she said nothing. Then she stepped forward and placed the brochure on the counter. Her fingers lingered on it. I'm applying, she said. I didn't ask to what. I didn't smile. I didn't reach out. Okay. She turned to leave, then stopped. I'm still angry, Dad. I know. But I read your letter to the board. Oh? You said it wasn't redemption. It isn't. Good, she said. Because I don't want redemption. I want reality. Then she walked out. I stood there a while after, alone again. But this time I didn't feel hollow, just grounded. I had finally stopped building illusions. The morning started early, before the sun, and before my thoughts could catch up. I volunteered at the church kitchen down the street, helping prep breakfast for unhoused veterans. No one there knew my last name. They called me Mr. T and laughed at how slowly I chopped onions. That was fine. I wasn't there to impress anyone. On a Tuesday, while unpacking eggs, I felt someone watching. I turned and saw Jacob standing in the doorway. He wore his gym hoodie, hands in pockets, eyes narrowed in a mix of confusion and curiosity. He didn't say anything at first. Neither did I. "You work here?" he asked. "Volunteer?" He nodded, looked around. "You cook?" I shrugged. "Sort of. They let me flip pancakes when I behave." He almost smiled. Almost. He left without another word. 2 days later, he was back. Not to talk, just to sit. He helped me carry crates inside, never asked why I was doing it, never mentioned the scholarship or the party or anything else, just handed me spatulas and cleaned up trays. And somehow, that was more conversation than we'd had in years. That Saturday, Ellen got sick. A flu, nothing serious, but she was alone at home. Jacob texted me. "She won't let me help. She's being stubborn." I went. She opened the door wrapped in a blanket, eyes swollen, voice thin. She looked surprised to see me but didn't object. I made tea, then soup, then sat in silence while she napped on the couch. I didn't ask how she was feeling, didn't mention anything about us, just checked her temperature, set a fresh glass of water by her side, and washed the dishes. Before I left, I wrote a note. "Broth's in the fridge. Rest." That night, a message came in from her. "Thank you for not saying anything." It was the first thank you I'd received from her in over a decade. A week passed, then another. Emily stopped answering my texts again, and for once I didn't press. I figured she needed space. Then a call came from her university. She'd had a breakdown during finals. Panic attack, disoriented. A professor found her crying in the hallway. They couldn't reach Ellen. I drove without telling anyone. She was in the nurse's office, curled on a cot with her arms wrapped around herself, pale and quiet. When she saw me, she blinked like I wasn't real. "I'm fine," she mumbled. "You're not." "I don't want to talk. I'm not here to make you." We walked to the car in silence. She sat in the passenger seat, still hugging her arms. "Don't call Mom," she whispered. "I won't." I started the car. We pulled out of the lot. 5 minutes in, she looked out the window and said, "Can you just drive and not say anything?" I nodded. We drove. 10 minutes. 15. The silence wasn't awkward. It was fragile, sacred. Then softly her voice cracked, and she cried. Not a single word. Just tears. Deep, years-old grief rising like steam from a shut-off engine. I didn't reach over. I didn't interrupt. I just kept driving. Later, she wiped her face with her sleeve and said, "Sorry." I shook my head. "You never have to apologize for feeling." She looked at me then, not as the man who missed her recitals or lectured her on GPA, just a driver, a presence, a father maybe, in the way I had never truly been. When we got back to her dorm, she didn't get out immediately. "You really meant what you said about not fixing things, didn't you?" "Yes." "Good," she said. "Because this isn't about fixing." She paused, then added, "But maybe next time you could still drive." Then she closed the door and walked inside. I stayed in the car long after. I didn't cry, not this time. I just breathed, slowly, deeply, as if the air finally belonged to me again. Spring came slowly, and with it, the gentle routines I hadn't known I needed. I still volunteered at the kitchen, still walked everywhere I could, still lived simply. But now sometimes Jacob joined me. Not often, not predictably, just enough. One morning, He brought his gym team to help. Teenagers, loud and awkward, clumsy with spatulas. He introduced me as my dad. It was the first time I'd heard that word from him in years. I didn't say anything, just kept pouring batter, pretending not to notice the tremble in my hands. Ellen invited me to dinner a month later. Not us, not come home, just dinner. She cooked, which was a surprise, and didn't ask for help. The table was quiet, but not uncomfortable. After we ate, she asked if I wanted to stay for coffee. I did. We talked about books, not the past. She showed me a story Emily had published in the college newsletter, an essay about silence, healing, and a long drive home. I read it twice, my hand tightening around the mug. She never told me she submitted this, I said. She didn't tell me either, Ellen replied. Emily came by later that evening. She didn't hug me, but she didn't flinch when I kissed her forehead. That was something. By summer, we had dinner every Sunday. No promises, no expectations, but the table was full. Jacob brought a girl once, Cassie, sweet, shy, firm handshake. After dinner, she said, "He told me you used to be intense." I laughed. Jacob didn't. He said, "Used to be," like it was a truth hard-earned. I no longer tried to give speeches or prove anything. I listened. I asked simple questions. Sometimes I just sat with them. One weekend, Emily asked if I wanted to visit the college where the scholarship fund was being used. We attended a small ceremony. She wore a blazer. I wore the only tie I still owned. A young student walked up to us, smiling nervously. "Thank you," she said to me. "I'm the first in my family to go to college. This scholarship changed everything." I nodded, unsure what to say. Emily spoke instead. "My dad used to work too much," she said. "Now he doesn't, and that changes everything too." Afterward, we walked back to the car. "I'm proud of you," I said. Emily didn't reply immediately. Then she said, "I think I'm finally proud of you too." That night I sat on the front porch of my apartment and stared at the stars. It had been decades since I'd noticed them. They didn't twinkle like in movies. They pulsed, quietly, steadily, like something distant but constant. The next morning, Ellen called. "Emily wants a small birthday dinner, just us." "Of course," I said. She paused. "You can bring a friend if you want." I almost laughed. "I don't have any friends." "You do," she said. "You just haven't noticed." The dinner was lovely, quiet. No candles, no music, just conversation. Emily opened her gifts carefully. Jacob teased her. Ellen sat beside me, not touching, but close. When cake was served, Emily brought out one last envelope and handed it to me. Inside was a photo. Me, in the church kitchen, mid-laugh, apron stained with pancake batter. In the background, Jacob was flipping something on the stove, Emily holding a tray. The moment was unposed, honest. On the back of the photo she had written, "This time he's here." I swallowed hard. "Who took this?" "Cassie," Jacob said. "She has a thing for candid shots." I placed the photo on the table, hands shaking slightly. "Thank you," I whispered. No one said anything after that. They didn't have to. We just ate cake. When the evening ended, I lingered as the others cleaned up. Ellen walked me to the door. "You've changed," she said softly. "I hope so. You're still quiet. Better than talking too much." She smiled. "Maybe. I like this version." I looked at her, not asking for anything, not hoping, just seeing. "I like him too," I said. When I got home, I placed the photo on my nightstand. Next to it, I left a note. "Legacy isn't what you leave behind. It's what you live through. And sometimes that means just being there when it matters. I turned off the light, and for the first time in years, slept all the way through the night.